Welcome to Social Media Storytelling for Impact, hosted by Hand Up. Before we dive in, if you have any questions during the presentation, just make a note, and at the end you'll be able to chat those questions to me through that little voice bubble icon at the top of your screen. For those of you who are not familiar with what Hand Up does, we provide a way to donate directly to homeless people and neighbors in need, working with local nonprofits and human services organizations across the U.S. My name is Megan Murphy, better known just as Murphy. I lead marketing at Hand Up. Before I joined the team here, I led community marketing with a tech company called Twilio, where I also founded their social good program, twilio.org. Prior to that, I worked with various startups on their social media, communications, and public relations strategy. So just a little bit of context as to why I am the one walking us through this webinar today. So we're going to focus on how to approach your social media strategy with storytelling, specifically defining your audience, what audiences on social media channels really want, and then some key tactics for storytelling that will get you results. But first, why should you care about this in the first place? Well, one, you want to reach this new generation of donors. The old days of pure one-way broadcast are over. Money and advertising is no longer necessarily driving the reach of content. Social media channels are owned by the user. They decide what content is valuable. You also want to build real relationships with your audience. A relationship drives loyalty and longevity. You know, what we do every day in this industry is very much about connecting people with people. Good storytelling gives you that dose of human elements and a message that a listener can bond to. When someone feels connected to your organization, they will take action. And good storytelling initiates action, because when you have that two-way relationship with your audience, they're going to feel personally connected to your cause and to the people you're serving. So, a couple stats to help illustrate my point here. 74% of adults who use the internet are using social media. Here in the US, 78% of people making over $75,000 annually use social networking. That is people with disposable income hanging out on Twitter. And finally, Facebook users tend to be more politically engaged, more trusting of their network and the content they're seeing, and they just have closer relationships in general. Now that we're all on the same page with why understanding storytelling, how it's important for your social media strategy, let's talk about defining your audience. To tell your best stories, you have to know who you're talking to. It's important to take the time to understand who your current audience is across all channels. Then look at who you're currently reaching on social channels. Now, who do you want your audience to be? Who do you want to reach beyond your current audience, specifically on social media? There are some really great tools that will help you quickly see gender, age, location of online audiences. I really like to use Sprout Social every single day, and I'm in Google Analytics every other day. But really pay attention to the people that are already interacting with you online. They're going to help you understand who your audience is and what they're looking for. You also want to think about defining your movement, because people want to join a movement. Donors under 35 are interested in building a community of like-minded givers. They want their friends and their family to support the cause that they believe in. So think about your mission, and how does that contribute to the movement that you're a part of or that you're trying to create? This should be, as much as possible, the underlying tone of what you're publishing online. So let's dig in now to what audiences want on social media. So I'm going to highlight 4 high-level themes to help frame your strategy. First and foremost, transparency. According to a Money for Good report from Blackbaud Idea Lab, 63% of donors want to know exactly how their money is going to be used, dollar for dollar. You have to build trust with your donors, and you can do this by sharing specifics through stories on social media. Your donor call to action should clearly explain where the money is going ahead of time, and the results that you share at the end of a campaign need to match up. This new generation of donors, and when I say that, I'm referencing people that are giving online instead of necessarily writing checks to organizations. These donors want to get the most impact for their dollar, and they want to see it in action. People want to make a visible impact. They want to understand how their $25, $50 donation helped your larger cause. You don't have to run huge reports, and you definitely shouldn't wait until your annual report, because you can share individual wins on your blog or on Facebook. A donor who gave $100 isn't going to feel connected to a result like, hey, we built 100 schools this year. But they will feel connected with a specific number like 30 donors this week helped buy all the wood needed to build our first school. It's very clear where their $100 went. As I mentioned before, online audiences aren't just consuming media anymore. It's not a one-way broadcast. They want to be influencers in their own circles too. New York Times Insights Group published a study looking at key factors that influence people to share. And unsurprisingly, they discovered sharing is all about relationships. So they outlined these key motivations that really make people want to share content. So first, people share because they want to bring valuable content to others. People share because they want to define themselves through the knowledge that they're sharing. People share to nourish relationships. They're building and engaging with relationships and engaging with other people online. So sharing valuable content helps grow those relationships. And finally, people share because they want to get the word out about the causes they're most passionate about. So this really means that you have to give your audience content that they want to reshare, and that makes them influencers in their own circles. So this final key theme in terms of what social audiences want, I think is really interesting, and it reflects the changing nature of charitable giving. According to a study by the University of Pennsylvania, emotive content is shared the most. So anything that sparks an emotional reaction. This includes negative emotion, maybe honing in on a really negative statistic or a dire need, but also refers to positive one, like if you focused on the impact. So I think we all want our brands and our stories to be empowering, not negative. So think about how you're going to use emotive content in your storytelling, but I recommend that your emotional catalyst is a positive one. All right, let's get into some specific tactics to help you tell the most impactful stories you can on your social channels. So I'm going to walk through 4 key best practices that can really help you drive engagement. Use visuals. What better transparent proof of impact than a photo or a video? This image from Charity Water is positive, It's emotive. It's focused on an individual. It shows me the immediate impact of having clean water. This next to their call to action, I want to click it. I want to learn about the water crisis. I believe the words that they are telling me next to this photo. At HandUp, we find that our member profiles with a compelling story, but also a photograph that shows their face or faces tends to draw the most donations. Keep in mind, though, you don't always have to hire a professional photographer. You have a really powerful tool in your pocket, and that's your phone. People don't care if the photo is high res. They really don't care if it's perfect, especially when you're posting on Twitter, Facebook. They just want to see something visual. So this is a profile of one of our members, Jeff, who raised $3,600 to get the dental health care he needed to continue playing music. What you see here is a video note that Jeff sent to his donors. It's just him sitting there, someone holding a phone, hitting record, but it's really meaningful. You might notice that it was shot vertically instead of horizontally, but none of that matters because this is a really authentic, genuine piece of rich content. When this video was posted, it got over 100 views in just about a day or two, and Jeff made a real connection with his donor community. So earlier I mentioned that human element of storytelling and donors really connecting to those details. This is really best done through individual stories. So share specific human elements that other donors can relate to. For example, maybe I am also a single mother who struggled when my children were under 5 years old. I'm going to feel compelled to donate to other single mothers who might need a hand up. This particular example here from the American Red Cross, Lindsay in this video is sharing a story while on a boat on the river. I also grew up boating in rivers in North Carolina, which is probably exactly why I picked this example to include in here and share with you. These small details can only come out in an individual story. And that's what's going to drive a donor to take action. This other great example is from WOTC. WOTC provides a way for people to donate directly to healthcare needs around the world. So every month, WOTC provides an update from their Universal Fund. They don't give high-level numbers or an overview of the month. They send one specific story so their audience understands exactly how much impact they had from their individual donation. So I always think in headlines. I have 140 characters to catch someone's attention and make them click. For the purposes of this key point here, a headline refers to any initial copy that your readers will see in a tweet or Facebook post or the headline of a blog post. Your social post should aim to tease that click. Traffic can vary up to 500% based on your headline. Just another quick interesting stat. Of 2 million tweets analyzed, 15% of people will retweet without clicking. So we have to make those few words really count, even if it's just to get someone else to reshare it. I really like this technique from the American Writers and Artists Institute. They pull out these 4 really critical elements to writing an effective headline. First, be useful to the reader. Again, that goes back to providing valuable, educational, influential content. Provide a sense of urgency. Donate now. Matching campaign ends Friday. You need to convey the idea that the benefit of this content is unique. So why is someone going to click this instead of the other 20 links in their feed? And do all of the above in an ultra specific way, meaning don't be too vague. It's too easy to glaze over. So this is a really fun report from a group who analyzed over 1,000 BuzzFeed articles. You might know BuzzFeed because most of their articles are lists. The main takeaways here are that, well, lists really do work for click-through. So if you can figure out how to write a blog post that's 5 ways to fight poverty in your community, it's probably going to do better in terms of using that headline. Next to this, they call out the reader addressing headline. So speaking to your reader in the headline, using you. And then next to that is the how-to type of a headline. Perhaps how to fight urban poverty in your community. You know, these are the numbers. This is what people are clicking through to. Not that you should turn all of your content into lists, but it's something to keep in mind. Overall, you know your audience best. So pay attention to what your audience responds to. The language, the words, the call to actions that they react to, and what they're resharing. Finally, every content should have a purpose. I like to think about these in 3 different buckets. First, informational. Are you sharing something that is purely sharing information, like an upcoming event or this tweet from Project Homeless Connect here in San Francisco? They are sharing information about an award and giving a shout out to some folks in their community that are a part of it. Next, awareness. Are you sharing something to drive awareness of your mission or your movement or some news with your company? So an example here from Hand Up, how donors helped Danny settle into his first stable home in a decade. You know, this is very much tied to our overall mission and the movement that we're trying to build. And we're driving awareness to Danny's story and how donors had an impact there. And finally, is your content's purpose to drive action? Most of the time in our world, it might be to donate or sign up to volunteer, something of that nature. This example here from End Homelessness is, drawing attention to this is your last day to participate in a letter writing campaign, great use of urgency, and very clear and specific. So it's just good to keep top of mind what you want your audience to do with what you're sharing. Your goal of sharing content is to drive people exactly where you want them to be, whether that's your blog or your website or a donation page. So maybe you have this really great infographic from a third party that you want to share. Instead of linking off to another site, whip up a blog post. Put the infographic in there. Link to the original content, but share the link from your blog post so you send people to your site instead of to another person's website. That was a lot of information. Really quick, I know. So let's take a look at the key points that we went over today in terms of what social audiences want and some of those key tactics you can use to reach them. So the best engagement through storytelling on social media starts with these high-level key themes. First being transparency. You gotta be totally honest and authentic with what you're doing. Impact. Donors want to see that impact. So think about how you can share that specific impact on a one-on-one basis. Audiences on social media want to be influencers. So think about how you're going to share valuable information that really empowers them to go be an advocate in their own community. And finally, use emotive content, but use it in a positive way. On the other side, These key tactics will really help you engage on your social media channels when you're thinking about telling stories. So use those visuals. Don't feel intimidated by not having a professional photographer or videographer. Use what you got. People don't care as long as they have something in front of them they can look at. Think about individual stories and really how those show the impact of what you're doing. Remember some of those rules with the headlines. Tease that click. And finally, keep in mind what the purpose of your content is and what you want your audience to do with it. So in the end, don't feel overwhelmed by all of this information, or don't feel like you need to have this structured content strategy before you run out the gate and start engaging on social media. Just take it one post at a time. Start slow, see what your audience reacts to, and go from there. Thank you so much for your time today. I hope that you've picked up some valuable tips for your upcoming social media efforts. If you have any questions right now, you can chat them to me on that little talk bubble at the top of your screen. Otherwise, thank you again for coming. Thank you for your time this morning, and I really look forward to seeing what stories you share this holiday season.